All right, gentlemen, let's get into it. We don't have to belabor things. Let's talk about and revisit the 2023 class. We've been doing this every year. I think starting back with, did we start with the 2021 class or did we start with the COVID year? I think it may have been the 2021 class, I think.
I don't even remember to tell you the truth, man.
Yeah, but this has been one of the things we do in the off season. We revisit recruiting classes and give our thoughts about them in retrospect. Every recruiting class is amazing because we, as Auburn fans, are excited about who's going to be the future Tigers, who's going to contribute, who's going to be the next big thing. So let's look back on 2023. This is actually Hugh Freeze's, I wouldn't say a full class, but his first official class that he signed in a big hurry down at Auburn.
Yeah.
Let's take a look at them and kind of give some of our thoughts about them. So, as you can see, on the left hand side are the signees who are still at Auburn: Kayan Lee, Hank Brown, Keldrick Falk, Terrence Love, Sylvester Smith, J.C. Hart, Jeremiah Cobb, C.J. Johnson, Tyler Scott, D.J. Reed, Braden Joyner, Connor Liu, Clay Whedon, Tyler Johnson. As for your JUCOs, you have Champ Anthony, Xavier Miller, Quintrell Jameson Travis, and guys who have entered the portal since signing with Auburn: Colton Hood, Brenton Williams, Wilkie Denard, and Steven Johnson. On3 rated this recruiting class as the 17th recruiting class in the nation with an 8th rank in the SEC. 247 actually has this class as a 19th overall ranking with an 18th composite ranking. So top 20 class, some future guys on this. What were some of your initial thoughts? I'll pass the rock to you, Ike. Your initial thoughts about this class when it was signed, some of the guys that you were excited about. Take it from there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I if you guys are new here, on signing day for the last 2 years, I've been doing a marathon live as this was happening. And if you could recall 2 years ago when this class signed, I had a whole like situation when we signed Keldrick Falk because I was like, oh, it happened. Like, because you're not used to stuff like that going our direction on signing day. You hear the rumors and you're like, maybe, and it actually happened. I was like, whoa, this is amazing, and it was the whole situation. And then K and Lee popped up, which I had no idea he was going to be a part of the class, and that was an amazing get for Auburn. The rest of them were pretty much people that you expected. Terrence loves Sylvester Smith. Big flips coming in there.
Right.
And then the Connor Liu and Clay Whedon situation, where those were guys that were looking elsewhere, and Coach Hugh Freeze was able to get them back on board late in the class. So just an amazing short amount of time. What kind of work they did to pull this class together. It was a really good day, satisfying day as an Auburn fan to watch those names come in. Even though he one upped himself the following class when he had more time, but this was a good first class, good start for Coach Freeze, and I feel like he did a really good job in a short amount of time.
Mike G, your thoughts?
Uh, for the coach that has emphasized high school recruiting, I can't lie, I wasn't super excited about this class because he didn't have a whole cycle to recruit. Whenever you hire a coach in December, it's what can they salvage, essentially. On3 has been very Auburn friendly in their recruiting rankings, I've noticed. You said they came in at 17, but look, I think that Jeremiah Cobb is somebody that everybody had their eye on. And
Mhm.
look, man, I mean, if you want a clue about how this staff feels about a kid, that whole let's just wait and see thing, it's not really a thing with this staff. If you're their guy, they're going to find a way to work you onto the field. And we saw quite a bit of Jeremiah Cobb in year one. Think about that
Yeah,
running back room. Bati, right? Damari, Jarquez, Sean. Jeremiah played a bit. He burned his red shirt, didn't he?
absolutely.
Yeah, man. Like it was not even a thought. I thought they might try to save the young man, but
I did too.
they were like, "Screw it. What's a red shirt? We only got blue shirts over here, right?" So I don't know what a blue shirt is, but whatever that it is, that's what Cobb was. because they played him. and I was shocked at how much they played him. So they were really setting this up. And then the whole running back room came back. And I'm like, okay. So, our guy, Bati right now, we've heard some encouraging news about his prospects to, pull through what he's doing, albeit,
I hadn't heard anything about it. So
yeah,
you got
there was a report that his prognosis has improved in some ways and was pretty bleak in others. So they're expecting some sort of permanent paralysis from this, but he may live. And you
okay.
have to assume,
That's good.
and so we're praying, we're continuing to pray for him. He's not gonna play, right? So
Yeah.
Auburn has some holes on special team. I'm not sure Jeremiah Cobb is one of those guys that can fill a special teams hole, but certainly he moves up the depth chart in terms of running back reps. And this is a guy from that class that I expect to be a significant contributor this year. I know I'd say that, but man, I don't think it's good for DeMar's prospects. I think that, again, for the guys they recruited, they're showing a lot of attention to those guys. And I could see Jeremiah jumping up into that number 2 spot behind Jarquez, depending on how things go, or if guys don't stay healthy. So, we'll see how that goes. Outside of that, Keldrick Falk, again, same thing. He was one of those names where it's like, oh, they did it. They got Keldrick Falk. So, look, this class, to me, I'm sorry, I got to give my guy Connor Lew some love as well, too. I thought that was a very underrated pickup. Connor Lew, to me, wasn't being talked about enough. And look, in year 1, he showed a lot of promise. So, I mean, it may not have been a ton of flash in this class, but certainly there were some underrated building blocks for the future. And I think the 3 guys that I named there were really at the center of it.
Yeah, for me, to me, Mike, I was ecstatic about this class because Auburn was like 80 something ranked recruiting class up like 3-4 weeks up until signing day or something like that. Again, the previous coaching staff, as it pertains to recruiting, wasn't a major priority, and it was one of those things that was really led to Harson's undoing.
Yeah,
right?
I wouldn't say recruiting wasn't a priority for them. I just think they had a different kind of strategy to recruiting that was not you know what I mean? They thought they could find a bunch of diamonds in the rough and develop. And that didn't really work in the SEC. You just got to find dudes.
Yeah.
You could do that with some of them. But
You can do that at Boise.
yeah, but you need to find that dude that's like, listen, we're gonna fix your high school grades so you can get in here, right? we're gonna cheat to get you. Those are the dudes you need in the SEC, guys you'll cheat for. Harsin,
Yeah.
he was bringing in scholars, but man, listen, I don't know. We just need some dudes.
Yeah. So I think from what Hugh Freeze did in such a short amount of time was nothing short of amazing to land in a top 20 class. I think Auburn was like around 50th or something like that. Once Hugh Freeze took over the head coaching job. So to bring them from 50th within the top 20 with very little time was nothing short of impressive. To even steal Kayan Lee from Ohio State, Connor Lew from Miami, holding on to Jeremiah Cobb, because that was a concern at one point. Keldrick Falk from FSU. Remember, Auburn was losing battles like this up until Hugh Freeze got here. So in this first recruiting cycle for Hugh Freeze to begin to flip some guys back to Auburn, it brought some excitement in terms of what this coaching staff could do. Obviously, he won up this recruiting class with what he did the following recruiting cycle, but it was kind of a sign of things to come. And so just even though it's not one of the higher recruiting classes, it welcomed a change, and it brought a lot of excitement to recruiting, as most fans were really frustrated with how recruiting was going up until this point.
Yeah, I will say this though about this recruiting class. Auburn really set it up for it to be a crap recruiting class. Year 1 after Harsin, you start the Harsin rumors and you put his job in jeopardy, right? So that whole offseason, it was like, we don't even know if this dude's going to be here. And if you don't believe that other coaches use that negative recruit, they do. You don't want to go there. He's not going to be there. So you had a lame duck head coach almost the entire season, and then you fire him midseason. So whatever juice he did have went out the door. if any.
Sure.
Like I mean, listen, there were some guys that were looking at him. Harsin was liked by players, but whatever guys he had in the pipeline, they were gone, and it was almost like, okay. And then we were sitting here thinking they got to hire somebody fast, right? So you had Lane kind of hanging out there for a little bit, and there were all these names being mentioned, and finally they land on Hugh Freeze. Except for, this is not the recruiting of the past. You got an early signing day.
Right.
So you got very little time to put it together. It used to be, well, hire a guy in December, and he's got till February to make it happen. Nope. 2 weeks. 2 weeks is all you get.
Yeah, I don't even think he met his team yet, did he? He got hired and hit the recruiting trail immediately.
Yeah, it was real tough on Hugh Freeze. So this was, I agree. They did what they could, what they had. Anybody judging Hugh Freeze by this class, whether was overly positively or negatively, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's fair at all. You just hope that some of these guys, like I said, Cobb, Falk, Lou, strong, like, program building contributors. Now, were there a bunch of game changers in this class? I don't know if there were a bunch of game changers in this class. Those were your Cam Coleman's and the guys that came in when he had a full recruiting cycle.
Sure.
And this one, listen, this was your hold it together class. Harsin had to do the same thing when he came after Gus. Any coach that gets hired in December, it's like, how do I get through this alive to the other side of the next year? He did that.
So with that in mind, I'll start with you, Mike. Who was the biggest pickup in retrospect for this class to you? Who stands out as like, okay, this was a huge get for this recruiting class?
Yeah, I think at the time, if you had asked people a lot of this question, they might have said Keldrick Falk.
Sure.
For a team that has struggled at offensive line, we'll say Connor Lou. He may not have been the sexiest name on the list, but I'll be damned if he might not be the most important for the next 2 or 3 years. Having a guy who can anchor your offensive line, look, man, how you jump in. And he performed admirably, if you ask me. But, man, that young man showed some promise for the future. And, I want you guys to think about this year. If Payne Thorne is not the quarterback at any point, or, he has to go out with an injury, Connor Lou becomes super hella important for Hank Brown and Holden. So, you need line play. I was talking to our guy, John Smith, over the Dog Dispatch about this. The difference between the top 3 or 4 teams in the SEC and everybody else is O-line and D-line, especially O-line. Because if you don't have a solid O-line, if you don't have a solid center, your quarterback's going to have to be Superman in this league. And that's what we've been seeing since 2019. The winning teams all got Superman at quarterback. The Joe Burrows, right? The Bryce Youngs. Hell, even Stetson looked like Superman in their second conference run. He made New York. That's tough. Can a team pull off what Michigan did last year in 2023? I don't care what nobody says. JJ McCarthy is mid to me. He's mid. Great defense, solid run game. Like, I think he's Cam's game manager. And ideally, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, right, all right. I was wondering if y'all was arguing with that. I'm glad I have support.
No, he's almost, if there were a definition of game manager in some book somewhere, throw JJ McCarthy's picture right there.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, but what a dream as a coach to be able to play a game manager and win and be confident you can win football games.
Yeah.
You have surrounded him with a strong supporting cast, and for a game manager, it starts at offensive line. Cam could not have been I'm sorry. Yeah, Cam. Yeah, I don't think Cam could have been a game manager in 2010. That offensive line wasn't terrible.
Oh.
It wasn't a bad offensive line.
I mean, the offensive line was a good run blocking line. It wasn't great at pass
blocking,
protection,
yeah.
but that's not what they were built to do.
Yeah, right.
They were built to, like, they wanted to be Smash Mouth with, and Cam was definitely the guy to run that.
Yeah, right. Like you had one style of offense that fit that offensive line, but you had the quarterback that was perfect for it. Put anybody else behind that line, if he's a statue, he's done.
Sure.
Think about how Alabama came after Cam in that 2010 Iron Bowl, guys. You know, they came out. I mean, he looked frustrated for a quarter. He kept his composure, sure, but man, they were getting to him, and only Cam could have made something out of that because that game looked over.
Yeah.
And he pulled out the win in epic fashion. So, like, you're either going to, that's today's college football. I feel like he was kind of the start of that. It's like Superman or super everybody else. Or Justice League. You have Superman or you did Justice League around him.
Justice League?
I went with the Superman. I went the DC routes. I had to stick with it.
That's
But,
fair. That's
you
fair.
understand
That's
what I'm
fair.
saying?
Yeah.
Right? Like, you need those guys down on offense. I just think Connor Lew was a good, solid pickup of a kid who came in and in year one, man, was an instant impact down there when somebody got hurt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Like I said, it was my underrated. Like, this might not be obvious to everybody, and these guys get overlooked a lot. But man, I think Connor Lew might have been the best pickup of that class.
Ike, what say you?
Yeah, I have to agree that Connor Lew, in my opinion, is the most important guy from this class. When he stepped in, he looked like he belonged. Yeah. So, so Connor Lew, I think is the guy that you have to look at and say, to Mike G's point, you can't look at how poorly Auburn has been in offensive line talent and performance and not look at a guy who came in as a true freshman in the SEC, called upon because of an injury to a starter, and step in, and it didn't feel like the offense stepped backwards with his contributions.
Right.
And then going forward, with a couple of games of him being able to get acclimated to the SEC and really be in here for the full off-season program, all those sorts of things, you expect him to take that next step. He could be the cornerstone of what could be a really good offensive line for Auburn for years to come. You have to look at Connor Lew as a guy that you say he's the most important, probably the MVP of that class right now. And I mean, that's saying something because I do like some of the other guys in that class, but nobody shines more than Connor Lew, in my opinion.
Yep.
And I have to listen. This is the name, not to just sound like we're all just in agreement. We are, but I had to go Connor Lew as well. Just when you think about how poor offensive line recruiting was leading up to this particular class, and the fact that you got someone who was talented enough to step in as a true. You know how hard it is to play offensive line.
Was it Georgia after him, or was it South Carolina?
I don't remember who all was.
I want to
there was multiple big programs.
I want to say Bobo was trying to get him to Georgia, like big
That
time.
sounds about right.
Yeah. I want to say. Chat, help me out here. I'm pretty sure it was Bobo.
I mean, he was definitely SEC level, obviously, but he was a big pickup. And again, it's tough to come in as a true freshman and actually contribute meaningful.
Amir says it was Miami.
Was it Miami?
Well, he was committed to Miami.
Yeah, that's right.
He was committed to Miami and flipped from them.
Mm.
But yeah, I mean, and their head coach is an offensive line guy, so he found this guy, and he was pretty much all but headed to Miami. So for him to come in and be able to play his freshman year, meaningful snaps, and the offense keeps going, it does, to y'all's point, doesn't take a step back, is major. This kid actually was one of the highest graded offensive linemen in pass blocking per Pro Football Focus as a true freshman. Auburn got someone to anchor its offensive line moving forward under Hugh Freeze. This was a huge pickup, especially at a position that definitely needed a talent upgrade. I'm going Connor Lew here as well.
For full episodes, check out the Midweek Report, going live on the War Report's YouTube channel at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time Wednesday nights. Until the next time, War Eagle.